for the win. Yes! Yes!
Steps back, three-pointer.
College basketball. This is March Madness.
Welcome into the Flop Warning. It's a Women's Wednesday here, and we have got a lot to talk about. Of course, we're through one weekend of the NCAA tournament, and we've got to break it all down. I'm Zion Brown with Hayden Smith and Jack Lindler, and guys, we had a great weekend this past week.
Oh, yeah, it was a great week in college basketball across the board. I mean, a lot of really, really good games. A couple upsets as well as many people want to say there weren't. There certainly were, and there was a lot of really good games, especially in the second round. Can't wait to talk about these.
Absolutely, yeah. It may not have been as many upsets as people were hoping for, but I mean, I think that just goes to show the level of talent that we've got right now in the top half of the numbers here for the rankings as well. So I'm really excited to see what they've got for the rest of the tourney. I think it's going to be a great outcome.
We're going to go straight into the games. I'm going to start with my favorite game of the weekend, which was Iowa State at Stanford on Sunday night. Stanford took this one. They almost got upset at home, but they took it 87-81 in overtime. Kiki Riafen, 41 points. She was ridiculous. I mean, guys, what were your takeaways from looking at this game?
I mean, 41 points in 40 minutes of play. She played the entire game, well, nearly the entire game. I mean, that's absolutely outstanding. What a game going into overtime. Like you said, almost lost at home and had a couple of teams that did actually lose at home. We'll talk about that here soon enough. But yeah, I mean, what a game all across the board. The shot making was there. You had great defense down the stretch. I really love this game. Audie Crooks just couldn't get it done right there down the stretch. Just 3 of 21. That hurts because of how great she played in round one.
Absolutely. Yeah. This game was the definition of a back and forth battle right here. You had no clue who was walking away with this one by the time the final minute was by the time the final minute came around. And on top of that, you know, Kiki, not only 41 points, but 16 rebounds, really impressive numbers there all around. You have written on there 9 for 9 free throws, but also an important thing to note, that final minute, Cameron Brink fouled out of the game
in regulation. Yeah,
fouled out of the game in regulation there. So they went the entirety of the rest of that game without Cameron Brink there. So a huge player for this Stanford team. So the fact they were able to get the game is just it's a testament to this entire team and how much and how important everybody else is to the roster.
They got a tough one coming up though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they sure do. They're going to play NC State on Friday. But yeah, the fact that, like you said, they lost Cameron Brink, she was limited due to foul trouble the entire game. Someone who's one of the best players in the country, probably going to be the number 2 overall pick in the WNBA draft. And they were able to eke that one out without her. I do want to give just a shout out to Iowa State, how well they've played through the Big 12 tournament. They made it to the championship of that before losing to Texas and in the NCAA tournament. It was a great end to their season.
Absolutely.
Audie Crooks as a freshman, she's just going to continue to evolve and improve. And by the time she's a junior or senior, they're going to be one of the best teams in the country, I think. So shout out to them. But yeah, like you said, big game. They'll move on to play NC State on Friday. We'll do a little bit of previewing later on. But now we'll go to a game that happened right in our backyard here in Bloomington. Oklahoma, IU, the Hoosiers won it 75-68. It's touch and go for really the whole game. IU went on a 10-0 run near the end to kind of seal it away and advance back to the Sweet 16.
I got to say, this one had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. I really wish I would have been able to actually be there in Assembly Hall for how great that environment was. Zion, I know you were there. Yeah. And again, great environment. Mackenzie Holmes, I mean, what a great final game for her in Assembly Hall. 29 points on 12 of 23 shooting. But also, you got to give a lot of credit to Sydney Parrish with how she started off that game. I believe she had 10 or 12 points there to start off the first half. And granted, from the second half, she kind of slowed down, but she was really one of the moving forces for Indiana to really get started. 17 points, 8 rebounds is what she ended up with. Great game all around for Indiana to be able to fight back in that game. They were down for most of it up until that fourth quarter where they really just started running away with it.
Yeah, despite Sydney Parrish's struggles there in the second half, Mackenzie Holmes was able to continue to lead the charge for the team there. And Hoosier Nation, they showed out for this game. Everybody was electric inside that crowd, inside Assembly Hall. It was just, like I said, an electric atmosphere overall. And shout out to Oklahoma. That's such a tough environment to maintain a winning attitude and to continue to push. Like the fact that they made it as close as it was, that's a testament to this team right here, that they were able to take it basically all the way to the final few minutes of this game.
And I think this was probably the game of the weekend that more than any other game where home court mattered the absolute most.
Yes.
You talk about, if Oklahoma had went on a run there near the end of the Big 12 tournament, or had they not fallen, I think it fell to Kansas, near the end of the regular season, they might have been the 4th seed, and maybe IU was the 5 seed going into Norman. But because of the way things shook out at the end, it was right on the line. The Hoosiers got the seed. Oklahoma had to travel here to Bloomington, and as you guys mentioned, that crowd was electric. I think 12,000 was the 12,300 something was the official mark in that one. And that crowd, they were on their feet pretty much the entire second half, ready to get their Hoosiers back to the Sweet 16 for the 3rd time in 4 years. And they've got a big challenge coming up.
All I'm going to say is they're going to have to play much, much, much better than they did against Oklahoma whenever they're going to take on the Gamecocks here on Friday. That is certainly a challenge this season, and they need the Indiana team that played against Iowa at home. There's no question.
And they're going to have to hit threes in that game. I believe it was 3 for 17 against Oklahoma, and they were able to survive despite that.
Yep.
You're not beating South Carolina if you go 3 for 17 from deep. You're
you
going to
have to
everything. Shoot. You're going to have to shoot at least at your regular pace.
Mackenzie
for the
Holmes
Hoosiers
could have
is almost
30,
40%.
Yeah. Mackenzie Holmes could have 30 plus, and they're not. I don't think they're winning that game.
Wow.
Well, hold on. Let me rephrase this. Let me rephrase this. Mackenzie Holmes,
we don't want any more clown noses.
Hold on. Let me speak. Mackenzie Holmes could have 30 plus, and Indiana could still shoot 3 of 16, and I think they will lose.
I'd be okay. I can accept that.
Sorry.
Okay.
Let me just rephrase.
So yeah, that Sweet 16 matchup will be on Friday at 5 p.m. in Albany. So that should be a good one. And then one more. We're harping on the second round games. I know there were some good first round games. Obviously, Middle Tennessee beating Louisville. But we'll go to another second round game, and that was Baylor at Virginia Tech. The Hokies were at home, and they fell, as you mentioned, Jack. One of those teams to fall 75-72. I'll actually start with you, Jack. Here, what stood out to you with this one?
I mean, we've got it written right there. Jada Walker, 28 points, 9 for 16 for the entire game. That's just such an incredible performance there, and a game a game leading performance, I should say, right there. Just able to take her team and pick them up and then get them the win on the road right there is such an impressive feat there for them. So yeah, Jada Walker is definitely the biggest thing that stands out for me in that game. But like we've been talking about, it's the same thing with it's a similar theme with these 3 games, a back and forth battle the whole time. Back and forth the whole time. Not quite sure who's going to be coming out on top there. But yeah, when you have a player performing like Jada Walker did, it's hard to lose that kind of a game then.
No, you're right. I mean, she was incredible. This is a Baylor team that I feel like throughout Big 12 play, we weren't really talking about them much. We talked about Texas because Texas was, their number 1 seed in the tournament. They're great. We talked about Oklahoma because they actually won the Big 12 regular season. And we just were like, yeah, Baylor's there. And obviously Virginia Tech hampered. They were playing without their best player, but they still went into Blacksburg and were able to advance to the second weekend. So that should not be scoffed at all. And it was a really good game. This was coming down to the wire that Baylor was able to pull out.
Yeah, that again, like you all said, going on the road, especially in a tournament environment like that's impressive for Baylor to be able to pull off that victory against Virginia Tech. And moving on, they've got momentum behind them. But I believe they play. Hold on, let me double check. Yeah,
USC.
They're going to play USC. So good luck there. That's all I'm going to say.
And that's a game that'll be out there in Portland too. So a bit further of a trip for Baylor fans to make. But yeah, just wrapping it up for Virginia Tech. It just kind of it really stinks the way it had to end for them with Liz Kitley not, them knowing that she wasn't going to be there for the tournament.
Yeah,
I feel like that killed any national title hopes they could have had, because I was somebody who, like, middle of February, I came on this pod a few times. It was like, guys, we're not talking about Virginia Tech enough. They were in the Final Four last year. They still have their 2 best, and I was like, guys, this is a team that can do it again. And then just for her to get injured and the way that the end of the season went, very unfortunate. And then, of course, last night, yesterday, the news broke. Kenny Brooks on the move. He's going from Virginia Tech to Kentucky. So congrats to him. Obviously, kind of a bittersweet ending for Virginia Tech fans with that era that he was able to really bring in and mold a really good program there at Virginia Tech. He's going to take his talents to Lexington and try to get them back to what they were, in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Yeah. So
good pickup for the Wildcats.
Absolutely.
Especially for, like you said, Kentucky's really struggled here as of recent. But so that's a really good pickup for them, and they could build some things to move on for the future.
So once again, Baylor moves on to play USC on Saturday. We'll see how that one goes, and we'll break down a little bit more. But once again, I'll start with you, Jack. What team maybe looked the best, or like was just the most eye-popping to you this weekend?
I mean, It's kind of a cliche at this point, but it's true though. South Carolina is the best team out there on the floor. I mean, I've got a couple numbers for you guys. They outscored their opponents so far in these last 2 games, 179-80. That's almost a 100-point difference right there. I mean, yes, you can likely expect that kind of a point margin in between, against a 16 seed like Presbyterian. But then they continue their dominance against an 8 seed with North Carolina there. I mean, this team's averaging just over 50% in field goal percentage. They've got 49 total rebounds over the past 2 games. I mean, they've just continued to look like the dominating force that we've always expected them to look like. And I've got a little bit more on this team a little bit later, but I can save that.
No, I mean, I agree. I'm really interested with South Carolina to watch them play because near the end of the season, I mean, they're 34-0, so it's not like, they're slipping. But near the end of the season, they played multiple tight games with Tennessee. Obviously, the Camila Cardoso 3-point buzzer beater in the SEC semifinal was a huge deal. They played 2 tight games as well with LSU.
Mm-hmm.
And so you look at that and you were like, okay, maybe this team is
Maybe they're
beatable.
human.
Maybe they're human. Maybe they're beatable. I don't think so. When you're talking about them playing against these other teams, LSU and Tennessee are used to seeing them at this point. So now that they're better, right? Because they still haven't been able to beat them, but they look at South Carolina and they say, okay, we know what's coming. We know what we're facing. We know what we're going up against. But when you talk about, obviously not Presbyterian, no offense to them, that was never going to happen.
No.
But when you talk about North Carolina,
March, though.
Anyone can make a run.
when you talk about, like a North Carolina or even maybe an IU coming up this weekend, they don't know what's coming. They haven't seen this before. Yeah. And when you haven't seen this before, best of luck, because it's going to be hard for you to look at Camila Cardoso and all those players, Pow, all of them, and just be like, oh yeah, we could beat them. It's hard.
It is.
It's going to be hard if you haven't played them to say we can confidently beat South Carolina in this tournament.
So I'm gonna go on the other side of this sword because we said who looked the best, and I'm gonna say who looked a little bit more mortal. We talked really briefly about maybe South Carolina looked like it at the end of the regular season. Of course, we've already given our thoughts there. I'm gonna say Iowa looked pretty rough against West Virginia. Only won that game 64-54. That's their second lowest point total of the season, behind their loss to Kansas State, where they only scored 58. Caitlin Clark, she had 32 points, but on 8 of 22 shooting, 5 of 14 from the 3-point line, just 3 assists, which is well below her season average, 6 turnovers. And then beyond that, they didn't really have much of a supporting cast behind her. Gabby Marshall, she did not score, went scoreless in 36 minutes, 0 of 4 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. This Iowa team definitely looks beatable, and especially in the side of the bracket that they are in, they're going to have to play Colorado in the Sweet 16, and then either a UCLA team or an LSU team in a title rematch. I think it's going to be an uphill climb for them to get back to the Final Four.
Before we get to the potential Elite Eight rematch, do you think, I was just going to ask you this briefly, do you think they get past Colorado?
I think they do. I do think as poorly as they played against West Virginia, I think they're going to be able to get past Colorado. Now, I won't go too much further to the Elite Eight because, in all honesty, that's going to be such a good game between UCLA and LSU. I don't know who I really have coming out of that. I might give the edge to LSU just because they have that veteran experience right now. But whenever you get to that point, it could be anybody's game in the Elite Eight.
Yeah, the team I'll mention that continues to stand out to me is Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a team that I will say, I'm not going to pick them right now. I'm not going to. They have played South Carolina this year. Like, the thing I was just mentioning about not having seen them before.
Where's this going?
Are we going to bet a clown nose? We bet a clown nose.
We'll get into picks later. But I will say they've seen them. So that's something that they have going. Obviously, they have to get past. They've got to get past Oregon State first. So I don't want to get ahead of myself there.
But I mean,
Oregon State's a good team.
But I've seen South Carolina play too, and I can't pick them. So I mean, I don't know what.
You know what? Hey, fair point. But I will say that about the Irish. They're a team that early on this season I said, okay, good team, but not really in the national championship conversation. I think the way they've played the last month or so, they've risen back into that convo.
They're playing their best basketball.
They're playing great ball. I worry about any team that's best player as a freshman, like Hannah Hidalgo is, as great as she is. she's a freshman, you know? So it's like, I don't know if that's what I want to, you know, rest my fate in, but the way they played is continued to really stand out to me personally so far in this tournament and throughout the last few weeks. Another big storyline, USC getting back to the Sweet 16, the first time since 94. This was, you know, obviously this is a program that when women's college basketball first came to the NCAA was the best program before Tennessee took over kind of, and then eventually UConn and everything else. But finally back in the Sweet 16, and they looked really good this weekend.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Juju Watkins has just been absolutely lights out for this team. I mentioned it earlier for, bigger storylines, but yeah, Juju Watkins averaging 25.5 points, and then the entire team itself just lighting it up from the 3-point line, 40.9% from beyond the arc. Man. It's really hard to beat a team when they're shooting 40% from three there.
Yeah, I mean, playing Baylor again in the Sweet 16, I'll be really curious to see. I'm already going to pick UConn to go to the Elite Eight and beat an upset-minded Duke team that just beat Ohio State, but that matchup is what I'm really going to look at if that is the matchup in the Elite Eight between USC and UConn. I mean, I'll talk about it more here in just a little bit, so I won't get too ahead of myself just yet.
There we go. So that definitely stood out. And then we mentioned IU already, but they did finish the season without a loss at home, which they came a game away from doing last year. So basically 2 years in a row, they've lost one total home game.
That's incredible.
Very impressive. Very impressive.
Shows you how difficult it is to play in Assembly Hall and how good, obviously, the crowds have been for Indiana, and obviously how great Indiana has actually played at home.
Now it's time to move on to the segment named after the show. It is the flop of the week or of the tournament, whatever we want to call it at this juncture of the season. I'll start here. I got to give it to the Ohio State Buckeyes. Mm-hmm. I mean,
there's really, you know, it's the clear choice, it seems.
They're just, I looked at them and I said, this could finally be the year. You know, Kevin McGuff gets them to the Final Four, maybe to the national championship. I looked at them when they were rolling through the Big Ten. They destroyed Iowa, or not destroyed, when they beat Iowa the first time, and the first time those two teams played. When they beat IU back in Columbus, I looked at them and I said, man, this team, right now, this looks like the second best team in the country to me. And the last few weeks, they have not looked like that. And then it all came crashing to an end.
Indiana 2.0 from last season. I mean, in all honesty, is the Big Ten regular season crowned like a curse at this point? It's the same storyline.
Maybe, because, it came crashing down, and not even that they lost to Duke. To lose by 12, basically, like, you were clearly not the best team in that game. At home, man, it's a tough ending for that team in that season because they had a great team. They're still going to be great going forward. Kevin McGuff is a good coach, even though he hasn't been able to really get fully over that hump. I know they finally did make the Elite Eight last year, but he hasn't been able to get to that third weekend to the Final Four and Natty. And so they're going to come back next year. Cody McMahon will be back. I think J.C. Sheldon is out of eligibility now.
I think you're right.
Taylor Thierry will probably be back. So they'll still have a good foundation. But, man, I thought this was going to be the year for that program to really say, we are, at least for this season, the best in the Big Ten, and we're going to make the Final Four, and it wasn't the case.
Yeah, Hayden, to your point, at this point next year, anybody coming into the Big Ten tournament,
give me second.
I don't want it.
I'll make it to the semis, and then we're fine.
Jack, who you got as your flop?
My flop of the week, we've talked about this game quite a bit, but my flop of the week is Oklahoma's interior defense. The perimeter defense was fantastic for Oklahoma. Absolutely shut down the Hoosiers from beyond the arc. Like we said, I think it was 3 from 17 from beyond the arc for the Hoosiers. So they held them down from beyond from beyond the 3-point line. They did absolutely fantastic. However, IU was able to make those adjustments offensively. There was a consistent plan throughout the second half of that game, and that was get the ball to Mackenzie Holmes and let her cook down low inside the paint. I mean, she basically played bully ball the entire game inside the paint. I mean, and it's just as simple as Oklahoma didn't make the adjustments.
And she had 29. She could have had like 35 or 37. Absolutely. I felt like she missed quite a few shots early on that she makes all the time.
Absolutely. And so, like I've been saying, Oklahoma just simply didn't make the adjustment, and IU kept going back to the well. I mean, this IU offense reminded me of Purdue's offense that we know right now. And what do we all know about Purdue's offense?
Zach Edey.
Get the ball to Zach Edey down low and just let him cook, I mean, Oklahoma could have sealed the game if they simply locked her up down low, but instead, like we've been talking about, Mackenzie Holmes finishes with 29 points and leads them to the Sweet 16.
Well, and that's a double-edged sword with Indiana. I mean, if if you double team Mackenzie Holmes, she can kick it out. And Indiana obviously has shooters all around the arc. That's why Indiana's been such a dangerous team. But I completely agree with you. I guess I'll go on ahead and I'll give my flop of the week to the only school that lost in an upset in the first round, that being the Louisville Cardinals, losing to Middle Tennessee 71-69. Riley, don't look at me like that. I know I picked Louisville. I didn't bet anything on that. No clown knows this time.
Wait. Did you pick them to also beat LSU the next game or just to win?
I said that they were going to be able to take care of Middle Tennessee.
Okay. I was with Haley Van Lith. I was with HBL. I said, I don't know. I just kind of feel like Middle Tennessee's better than we give them credit
Haley
for.
Van Lith clearly is a prophet of some sort. But man, you gotta give you gotta tip your cap to Middle Tennessee, the Blue Raiders. That was a 6-man rotation that they ran. All 5 of their starters went 40 minutes, 38 minutes, 37 minutes, and 36 minutes. And really the only person they brought off the bench played 7 minutes. I mean, that's incredible the way they played, but Louisville just not able to get the job done, stumbled down the road during the regular season. So it's going to be really curious to see what Jeff Walz does in the offseason to try and continue to recruit at home and try and keep some of the players that he can. Jada Curry's got another year that she can use. Kiki Jefferson, Olivia Cochran, a lot of really good players on the Cardinals that they can continue to build and continue to try and be a top program in the ACC moving forward.
Here we go. So those are our flops. We'll see once again how Louisville kind of keeps going and does going forward. Now we're going to give out our game balls. Hayden, I think we might have the same one, so I'm going to start with Jack.
So my game ball for this week is going to the junior guard from Duke, Miss Reagan Richardson. She's absolutely lit up this tournament so far. She's averaging 26.5 points and 7 rebounds, and she's led the charge against probably the biggest upset of the tournament by far. And I need to remind you, that was on the road against the Big Ten champion Ohio State Buckeyes. So it's just an absolutely incredible performance right now, especially on the road. She's led her team to the into the Sweet 16, and so it's just an absolutely incredible performances so far. And I can't wait to see what she does going ahead.
And looking at her game log, she hadn't really scored in double figures recently. Before this, she does average 12 a game, but like the last few games, she was struggling. And then she got to the tournament and said, "I'm gonna drop 25 and 28."
She was just saving it all for the tournament.
That's what happens.
What better time to save it then, you know?
Absolutely. So for sure, shout out to Reagan Richardson. She balled her power. They're going to need her to do it again against Duke going forward. All right, hey, I think we have the same one.
We do.
From 3-2-1 at 3-2-1.
Paige
Beckers, man.
Paige buckets.
Incredible.
Oh my goodness. 28, 11, and 7 against Jackson State, and then 32, 10, and 6, and 4 steals against Syracuse. I mean, Zion, she's absolutely incredible. And if Caitlin Clark was not in women's college basketball, there's no question. I think Paige Beckers would certainly give somebody like Juju Watkins a run for money for National Player of the Year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Paige Beckers, you look at every aspect of the game, you know, I think she's the most complete. She's a strong defender. She can score. She can facilitate. She can distribute the ball. She can do just a bit of everything. And what we've seen from Paige Beckers, it feels like really from the moment she stepped onto a college basketball court, is that you look at the fourth quarter of games, when she needs to put her team on her back, she's done it. You know, when she's been healthy, right? That's been the issue. Is that the last couple of years, we haven't been able to see Paige Beckers at full health all the time. But when she's been healthy from her freshman year to now, when her team has just needed, hey, I'm going to carry you on my back, she has delivered. That's what I love about her so much. The 32 points against Syracuse, they needed every single bit of that to get past the Orange, who put up a great fight at UConn.
And they were both really efficient outings, too. Yeah. I mean, they were both over 50%. That's impressive.
Yeah, so Paige Beckers, you, to me, so far, are like the player of the tournament. It's been 2 games, so there's a lot to be decided. But right now, it has been her for me because she's been great. All right, so now let's start the preview. Now, what we think? I think the way we should do it, we go region by region.
Okay.
Where we just pick who we think is coming out of the region. So we'll start with that Albany region.
Is this much of a debate?
Yeah, no, not really.
Not much.
For the audience,
is anybody going to pick Indiana?
For the audience, I'll list out what we've got ahead. It's South Carolina, IU, the first game, one, or not the first game of the region, but the 1 versus 4, the first game that'll actually happen on Friday. Oregon State, Notre Dame, the 2 seed, Oregon State, the 3. Guys, what are you thinking?
South Carolina. I mean, there's no question.
I mean, yeah, I've got more I want to say. Yeah, but South Carolina, there's no question. I'm curious about what you're gonna say though, Zion, because you were dropping hints earlier.
I'm not.
Do it, Zion.
I'm not.
Come on,
Pick 'em, Zion.
I
Pick
can't.
'em.
Here's where I stand, guys. The final 4 teams for my original bracket are all intact. I still all believe in them. As much as I liked Ohio State, I didn't pick them, thankfully. So I still believe in all of them, and I picked South Carolina to get there. But I would not be surprised if there's 5 minutes left against Notre Dame and we're looking at a 3 or 4 point game between South Carolina and Notre Dame. Once again, Notre Dame does have to get past Oregon State. I am not taking that for granted because the Beavers are a really good basketball team.
Exactly.
But I do think we could see a much tighter game. You know, we talk about the spreads. If whatever the spread of that Notre Dame South Carolina game is, I could see Notre Dame, you know, at least winning against the spread. But I can't pick against Don Staley and that team right now. Once again, if Hannah Hidalgo, which I know it doesn't actually matter, but to me it matters. If she was a junior or a senior, maybe I do come on here and say they're going to do it. But it's just hard when you're put so much on the shoulders of a freshman against an undefeated team.
Exactly.
It's tough. So I do think South Carolina gets out of this. Now to see who they would potentially play in the Final Four, we've got the Portland 4 regional, which is Texas, number 1 Texas versus number 4 Gonzaga, and number 2 Stanford versus number 3 NC State. This is one that I think you could pick.
Yeah, this one's
3 of the 4, maybe all 4.
That's
Gonzaga, I like them. I don't know if I'd pick them to win 2 games in this weekend, but
yeah.
Let's start with you, Hayden. Who you got coming out of this one?
I kind of like Stanford. I think they did get a little snubbed of the 1 seed in that region over Texas. That was a huge debate on Selection Sunday, but I just really like the way that Stanford has been playing. The Cardinals are playing well. If Cameron Brink can continue to produce like she has. Again, she didn't play particularly well against Iowa State, but again, she did foul out, only played 22 minutes, shot 4 of 9 with 8 points, 8 boards. I like Stanford to get out of there, so I'll pick the Cardinals.
I actually 1,000% agree with you on that. Yeah, I think Stanford, they're hungry after not getting that 1 spot. They're hungry for it. You know, they've, like we've talked about, they still got Cameron Brink, the 2nd best player in the entire country. She fouled out in the last game. You know, she's going to want to fix those mistakes that she's been making. But I don't think they're too bothered by the Iowa State game right now. They were able to get the win, and I think they want to just put it all behind them for right now. And I think from there, they're thinking to themselves, you know, we were able to scrape across that win in, you know, the grittiest kind of ball game that you can play. And so really at this point, I think they're on top of the world. I think they've got the mindset that they can really beat anybody at this point.
Man, I was really expecting us to have a couple of different answers.
No,
but I don't know what it is about Texas. I know they're a great team. I don't know.
I don't
trust it.
I just think Stanford's the better team, in all honesty.
Yeah. And this is going to be played closer to Stanford's backyard than Texas. This is a situation where Texas kind of gets screwed by the fact that there's only 2 regionals, because technically Portland is the closest to Austin, but it's not closer to Austin than Stanford is.
Yeah.
So they are going to be at a disadvantage. They are going to be at a disadvantage as far as the crowd goes in this regional. They're going to be there. I'm curious to see. They'll probably be at a disadvantage against Gonzaga with the crowd. Right?
Exactly.
Like
that's not bad.
To get out of this, they would basically have to win 2 road games, right? Like it almost feels like that. So it's tough. So I also picking Stanford to get out of this one. The fact that I don't know about you guys, it's not great logic, but the fact that they did survive the Iowa State game makes me feel good about them going. It's like, okay, you got your, the game where you're like, you got your nervous game out of the way, basically. The game where you're like, oh man, are we really about to do this?
Where you're holding your breath the whole time.
That to me gives you an extra
and without
calming.
Your best player.
Right. Exactly. That to me gives you more calming and to say, okay, we're good now. We know how to do it. We can get through these games. So I'm picking them to get back to the Final Four. Now going back to an Albany regional. This is on that top right side of the bracket. Number 1 Iowa plays number 5 Colorado. Number 2 UCLA plays number 3 LSU. I'll start with this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please.
Oh my goodness.
I'm struggling here. I actually am.
I do think Iowa gets past Colorado.
I agree.
LSU, great season. I think it ends here. I just think UCLA is the better team. The better, more complete team. LSU has played a lot better. They're kind of in a fight against Middle Tennessee for a half, and then they just dominated the second half there to win 83-56. But I think UCLA gets them, and then we get Iowa versus UCLA in Albany. Man.
I have a feeling.
I have a pick. I made a pick once again when the brackets came out. And I'm going to stick to it. I think UCLA gets to the Final Four.
All right.
And man, it's hard because I'm picking against the best player in college basketball.
Yeah.
I understand that. But I just think that UCLA, the Bruins, get past them in this game. Once again, I really think the Pac-12, and not that conferences are everything, but I feel like a lot of those Pac-12 teams, not all of them, but a lot of them are really battle-tested and ready to prove how good they were in this final year of their conference. I think UCLA is going to get to the Final Four.
Are we putting a clown nose on this?
You know what? Why not?
Oh,
why not?
Wow.
Okay, wait.
UCLA over Iowa.
So what's the bet? What if LSU beats UCLA?
Then I say.
Is it just if UCLA and Iowa play?
I say we wipe it.
Okay. So
Okay.
if UCLA and Iowa play in the Elite Eight
I agree.
and Iowa wins, I'll wear a clown nose next time I'm on.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. I like it. Jack?
I'm not as confident in UCLA. That Creighton score scares me. It's a close game. Creighton's obviously a very talented team, you know. That 4-point margin, though, kind of scares me, though. When you're going up against teams like Iowa and when you're going up against teams like LSU, you can't keep it close. You're gonna have to dominate your way through. And I agree. I think Iowa gets past Colorado. I think LSU gets past UCLA. I think it's
Okay.
gonna be a rematch here with
Okay.
Iowa and LSU. Like I think both these teams, like I've talked
You know,
about before.
ESPN's itching for it.
What's that?
You know, ESPN's itching
Oh,
for a rematch.
absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. Yes.
The revenue from that would go through the roof.
Through the roof. And we've talked about it a little bit before, but yeah, both these teams have kind of had not necessarily down years or anything like that, but compared to past years, this year's kind of seemed like a little bit of a step down. I don't think they're trying to neither of these teams are going to let that bother them. They're still here. They're still in the moment. They've been through this before. They are hungry for it. Both these teams. LSU wants to prove that they're still the best. Iowa wants to prove that they're the best as well.
Right.
Caitlin Clark's going to be hungry to get that national championship. She's got every single award and
She wants the
record in the
storybook
book,
ending,
but
for
she
sure.
wants that storybook ending there. I think it's going to come down to LSU, Iowa, and I think that Caitlin Clark's going to come out on top.
Okay.
It's going to be the year of Caitlin Clark at this point. You know, I mean, it's like we've talked about. Yeah, storybook ending at that point.
All right. Well, I guess it's up to me to either break the deadlock or
Or pick
go.
LSU.
Yeah, or pick LSU.
Or Colorado.
I like the confidence.
Here's what I'll say.
but
Colorado
no.
has had moments this year where they
Yeah.
look
No,
like
yeah,
a top 10
100%.
team. But I don't know.
Did they not play? No, that was Iowa and Kansas State. Iowa and Kansas State played earlier this season, and Kansas State won that game. I'm not quite certain if Iowa and Colorado played each other, but I don't know. I have a sneaky suspicion that they did. I'll go on ahead and make my pick while you guys apparently are researching this. I'll also pick. I'm also going to pick LSU over UCLA. Again, I don't know. I think just down the stretch, LSU is going to prove that they are the better team. I do think that UCLA is a more complete team, but LSU star power, I think, is going to outweigh that. And then Iowa's going to be able to get past Colorado. So again, Iowa, LSU. I can't pick against Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes.
cowards.
I can't.
You cowards.
Fine, LSU wins. I'm kidding. No.
But when we're right, you're going to be like, all right,
Exactly.
yeah,
and
that's
I'm going to
fair.
be wearing the clown nose.
No,
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna pick the Iowa Hawkeyes. I think Caitlin Clark is that woman, and she's gonna dominate down the stretch, and they're gonna go back to the Final Four.
All right. So I'll stand alone here.
That's
you know,
fine.
last regional, Portland Regional 3. I feel like this one kind of has the least intrigue, which you rarely say about a regional with UConn in it.
Okay.
But it's
Now I'm really curious.
USC 1, Baylor 5, UConn 3, Duke 7. I'll start with you, Hayden. We'll go right back to you. Who you got coming out?
As much as I do want to pick USC, I am going to go with UConn getting out of this region and going to the Final Four. Again, Riley's over here looking at me like I've got 5 heads right now. I did originally pick UConn to get out of that region in my bracket, and I'm right there with you, Zion. My Final Four is still intact at this current point in time, and I think UConn's going to get it done. I think Paige Beckers, and she's got a great supporting cast behind her, is going to be able to get past Juju Watkins and USC. Again, a big reason why I think Riley's looking at me like I've got 5 heads is because he loves Juju Watkins in this USC team, and he's talked about them all season long. But I think down the stretch, UConn is going to show that they've got the veteran leadership out there and the tournament experience to be able to get past USC and get past the Trojans.
The way I see things going right now, USC is absolutely going to be dominating Baylor. They've been dominating this entire stretch right now. They're making it to the Elite Eight. And I think UConn's taking them down as well.
Oh,
I've got some numbers that I think can go well with this. UConn is
back me up.
UConn is quite literally shooting 50% from the floor so far this entire tournament. 50%. They're also averaging 9 steals, 5 blocks. It's just these kinds of numbers are not just a fluke thing. You know, this is a very special team, and I think that those kinds of numbers are going to come in huge against Juju Watkins and USC. So I've got UConn beating Duke and then coming out on top against USC as well.
So I think we're all picking USC and UConn to win their games. No offense to Baylor or Duke. I could see Baylor keeping it close against USC, but I do think it'll be those two teams in the Elite Eight. And you guys are making me feel bad because I also am going to pick UConn here.
Let's go.
There we go.
But I feel like we're just bound
Riley
to get this.
is fuming over here right now.
Terribly wrong.
He's fuming.
Here's the way I see it. Once again, I'm going back to the freshman thing. Juju Watkins is still a freshman. Paige Beckers has done this before. She's been to a national championship game.
Is this ASMR with sound right now?
And I just
College
think,
basketball ASMR.
I think UConn is going to get into if they get into a close game with USC down the stretch, they're going to have the best player on the court. And no offense to Lindsey Gottlieb of USC, but they're going to have the best coach in Gino Auriemma.
Yep. There's no question.
And Lindsey Gottlieb, good coach, took Cal to the tournament multiple times. She hasn't had to be in this situation where the whole country is watching you. The whole country is watching you. You see Gino Auriemma on that other side, and you have to find a way to scrap out a win. So I do think UConn takes it and gets to the Final Four there. And Riley is heated right now. His message says Juju is dropping 40
and winning the
Natty.
They're winning the Natty.
USC as in South Carolina. Okay, that makes sense.
But here's the thing, Riley.
I get it now.
Here's the thing, Riley. You've been confident before in a lot of your picks, and
Riley,
it kind of came back to bite you a little bit.
on this right now.
You know, that's the thing That's the thing about us right now, though.
He's out.
That's the thing about us right now. We're very confident right now, but we don't put our money where our nose is. So,
all right, time to wrap us up here with the shot clock. I can go first here. Riley, you want to get my clock ready? Mine is kind of silly, really. Nothing crazy, not a rant, really.
Okay.
Just whenever. All right, 3, 2, 1. You cut me down. 3, 2, 1. I have never and will never relate to Caitlin Clark more than when she was yelling at the refs and her dad in the stands told her to shut up. That is how my youth basketball experience went so often. I saw that moment. It was like, oh my God, flashbacks. I thought that was just such a pure moment that ESPN caught during that game. And she was complaining and arguing about some call, and her dad is in the she just goes, God, shut up. And I just thought that was so funny. That's it. Nothing to rant about. I just thought it was hilarious.
I love that. No, that actually was a hilarious moment. I can relate to you as well, Zion.
Like I've been saying, the year of Caitlin Clark at this point, both the good and the bad.
All right, who wants to go next?
Jack?
I can go next. I mean, again, mine's not really a hot take or anything like that. It's very, very tame, but go ahead.
3, 2, 1.
This is South Carolina's revenge tour. Let's be honest here. I mean, we've talked a lot about these other teams, you know, and they're all very talented teams, but South Carolina's winning the Natty. I mean, I've talked about their stats earlier, so I don't need to rehash that or anything. They're the most complete team in the entire NCAA, both offensively and defensively. New stats, 12 steals, 7 blocks, and 49 total rebounds on average. That's a 49 rebound per game average right there. So even if they play at just half the effort that they've been playing at, they'll still be blowing out teams by 20 at this point.
There you go.
Was he under, Riley? No, it was a shot clock violation.
That's
he got the shot off. Okay. All right, well,
take us home.
That was going to be my first
I got
one.
some ready. I've just got 3 words written down right here with a period at the end of it. Riley, you better be ready for me here.
3, 2, 1.
I just want to say I'm a genius for picking Ohio State to choke in the tournament. And I didn't expect them to lose this early, but they still choked nonetheless. So I'm just going to say I'm going to toot my own horn here as long as I can. I'm a genius. Ohio State just couldn't really get it done down the stretch again. Hats off to how great Ohio State has been this season. I did pick them to lose to UConn, but a little bit earlier than I expected. All I'm going to say is I'm a prophet right now.
Okay, well, now you're making me nervous at this point because you and I have a lot of the same picks for going into the Elite Eight right now.
Yep.
We have a lot of
you
the same
confident.
picks.
This is a
It's
genius
easy to
over
be
here.
confident.
But at this
right
point,
now.
he's also jinxing it at this point
No,
by
I'm
calling out
not.
how much he's a
No, I'm
genius,
not.
you know?
I'm a genius.
Taking out your shot clock to toot your own horn, Hayden. That is hilarious. Well, we've got a great weekend of games coming up. I cannot wait for all the action to go down. This is, especially in the women's side, I feel like this is when it gets really real
Exactly.
because,
Absolutely.
you know, a lot of we're not expecting really very many blowouts anymore at this point. So I'm excited for it. You can keep up, and the whole tournament will be through ESPN and ABC. It'll be fun. But thanks for watching. That's been Jack Lindler. That's been Hayden Smith. I'm Zion Brown. Riley Woodall has produced for us today on the Flop Warning. Take it easy.